Oh, hi there guys. I didn't see you over there. Do you guys know what this is? Come closer and let me show you. Okay guys, before we start today's video, I'd like to thank Aqua for sponsoring us this test kit. And be sure to watch the video till the end as I'll be giving away this particular test kit. Okay guys, so some of you may want to know why you need a test kit. Okay, so the main reason is to make sure your water quality is in pristine condition. And a test kit helps you achieve that. And when you open this test kit over here, you'll find you'll have a pH test, a nitrites test, an ammonia test, a nitrates test, and a KH test. Now all of these combined together, if used correctly, will help you understand what's happening inside your tank. Now, sometimes you may look at your tank and you may think everything is okay, but you will never know unless you test your water. A good example for that is your water might be filtered correctly and your water might look crystal clear and you might think there's no problem. However, you'll find that maybe if you test your NO2 or your nitrites, you might find that you'll actually have a nitrite problem. Another common problem we find is pH. So a lot of clients will say, my tank is very old, I've had no problem. And that's exactly it. Your tank has been very old, so because of that your water is aged and mature, and you'll find that you generally have a pH problem. So testing your pH regularly will make sure you do not have that, and you make sure your tank doesn't crash or your system doesn't fail because you've now tested it and you know exactly what your pH is. Another reason you might need a test kit for is because of the certain type of fish that you have. Now, for example, if you have discus, for example, you might find that discus need a slightly lower pH versus if you had to keep African cichlids, they need a slightly higher pH. Now, it would be difficult to understand what the pH is if you had no test kit. That's why you'd need a pH test kit. Another example of why we'd use a nitrite test kit is in the beginning phase of our fish tank. So let's say we've cycled our tank, it's been the 5/7 days, you've added your water conditioners and now you want to add fish. Then how do you know your water is right? How do you know there's no poisons in the water? And one of the tests you use is nitrites or NO2. And if you test your tank and there's no NO2, that means you're on the right track. But you could look at your tank and everything could look perfectly fine, but you could still have nitrites. And then you add fish in the tank, you'll end up causing problems. That's why it's important to test the water first before adding the fish in the tank when you've just set up a new tank. So for the first test we're going to do today, I'm going to show you how to use this test kit, and specifically we're going to start with how to use pH. So it's quite simple. First of all, you'll find there's a chart. Alright, so all you have to do is just find the matching chart. So for example, this you'll see is pH. The chart will show you pH, the colors match, light blue and light blue. If you don't know how to test, the chart actually gives you specific instructions. It will tell you, step 1, step 2, put 5 ml of water into a vial, put 5 drops of the liquid, swirl the little vial and wait 5 minutes. And then you go to your chart to match the color. Now what's also cool about the JBL test kit in particular, and why I like this test kit so much, it's literally color coded. So red means danger, yellow means caution, and green means good, which means you always want to be in the green area. So for example, we want to be at 7.5, which is in the green area. Let's test the water and let's see. Okay, let's take 5 ml of water. Okay, there we go, 5 ml of water. And let's open this test kit up here. There we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There we go. Now, the tricky step, trying to match the colors. So we can kind of see we're at like a greenish color. Okay. We had like a light green, slightly darkish tint, which means we're in the range of 7.5 to 8, which is perfect, which is exactly where we want to be. Awesome. Okay, now, so pH stands for the potency of hydrogen. It's basically how acidic or how alkaline our water is. Now, if you're on the lower end, 3, 4, 4.55, our water will be very acidic. And if you're on the higher end, 9, 9.5, 10, our water will be very alkaline. Now, it's important to understand that it will be extremely difficult to have a very high alkaline water unless you've done something very specific to the tank to get the pH to be that high. Majority of the times you'll find you'll either be in a neutral section or in a very acidic range. On to the next test. The next test we're going to do is nitrites. Now, nitrites is basically a poison in the water that is harmful to fish. We always want nitrites to be at a safe level, preferably more around 0 on the chart. Nitrites can be caused due to a number of reasons. So for example, if you've overfed in your tank, you would have high nitrites because the food will decompose. If you have a dead fish in the tank, you'll find you might have high nitrites because the fish is decomposing. Or for example, your tank is too new and there's not enough bacteria in the system to detoxify and remove that nitrites. Alright, so let's test nitrites. Okay, so we grab a new vial, get some water. Again, we need 5 ml. Okay. Well, NO2 is like a pink color, and the chart for NO2 is pink as well. And it will show you step 1, step 2, step 3. And for example, here on vial 1, 5 drops, and on vial 2, 5 drops as well. So let's do vial 1. Okay, so we go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. One, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, let's give that a couple seconds. And now we match the color. Again, remember, green is good, yellow is caution, and red is danger. We're always going to be in the green side. And that's exactly where we are. We add yellow, the water is completely yellow. We have no nitrites in this particular tank. Okay, so another test we're going to talk about today is KH, which is carbonate hardness. KH can also be referred to as KH plus GH, which equals total hardness. Now, some of you may ask, what's the importance of testing KH? Well, it depends on the setup you have. For example, if you have a saltwater tank, we need your KH to be very high. For example, as high as 6, 7, 8, 9, or 10. Whereas in a freshwater tank, we only need your KH to be between 1, 2, 3, and 4, for example. Also, the importance of KH prevents pH swings. So which means that if your pH is good, your KH should also be good, and your KH keeps your pH in check. Let's test our KH. Now, something you'll notice about the KH test kit is that you'll see it has a question mark under how many drops. So this is a drop dependent test. So rather than me explaining, let me give you an example. Okay, 5 ml of water. Okay, now, so KH will first start off at blue, and depending on the drop, or the number of drops you add, it will change to orange. So each drop we add is 1 degree of KH. So for example, drop 1, it's blue, that's 1 degree of KH. Drop 2, it's still blue. Drop 3, almost changed, and drop 4, it's just changed. So that means our KH is at 4, which is actually perfect. It makes total sense because our pH is perfect, which also means our KH is perfect. So for the last test that's in this particular test kit, we have nitrates. Okay, and nitrates has 2 steps. Step 1, it's 1 teaspoon of the powder, which is there's your powder over here, and it's 6 drops of step 2. Now, something to note is that you will always have NO3 in your fish tank. NO3 is a byproduct of bacteria breaking down NO2 in your ecosystem. The important thing to understand with NO2 and NO3 is that you don't want NO2, but you will always have NO3, but it's important to have NO3 at a reasonable level. So for example, you'll see this is the chart here for NO3. You can see it's like this orange color and it matches the orange over there. And you'll find that you want to kind of be in the middle there between 1, 3, 5 and roughly 15. But you will never be at 0. If you're at 0, it means there's something wrong with the system and that bacteria isn't breaking down NO2. Okay, so the next thing I want to talk about is what you guys have to do when you get the incorrect test results. So, for example, you're going to start with NO2, right? Now, if for example you test your tank and you find your NO2 is extremely high, the first thing is you need to do a water change. To take out some of the bad water and add some good water. Obviously, when you do a water change, you must follow the procedures on how to do a water change. Make sure you have your anti-chlorine, your bacteria boosters, how to clean the filter, etc. But then also, over and above that, do not feed the fish for a couple days until you bring this down. Now another thing is also, if you have high ammonia, okay? Ammonia is a little bit of a tricky one, right? So if you look at the chart there, it says you have to wait up to 15 minutes to get an accurate reading. So always just take note of that. Now, let's say you test the water and you have high ammonia. Again, it will be important to take out some of the bad water, add some good water, which means do a water change. Again, you wouldn't feed the fish, but it must be important to add your bacteria boosters after that water change and also for a number of days after that to help bring this down. Then the last one I want to talk about is pH. Now, if you test your tank and you have a very low pH, what do you do? Or you have a very high pH, what do you do? So, for example, if you test your tank and you have a pH of 7, which is neutral, that's perfectly fine. If you test your tank and your pH is too low, it's too acidic, you find that you're at 3, for example, on this chart, you want to get a pH buffer. So you get a buffer that's going to pick you up, an alkaline buffer, or for example, if you're at 9, you want to get an acidic buffer that's going to bring you down. Or you can add stuff like crushed coral, shells, which will naturally buffer your water and lift your water up and bring you to a more alkaline pH. Okay guys, let's get into today's giveaway. In order for you guys to win this test kit over here, I need you guys to subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us on Instagram and TikTok, like this video, and most importantly, I need you guys to answer this question on any of our platforms in the comment sections below. What do you do when your nitrites are high? Good luck guys.